All right, we're ready to start masking. A few things I want to mention before we actually get into the masking fluid. So what I've done here is the basic composition. I just liked it without any elements going off the paper. But for you, because the background is so gray, you could actually cut parts off if you want to make it square, or you want to make it a little wider, whatever you want to do. Even if you want to make the flower bigger and have a couple of these petals going off the side, you can, so that you're only doing one little area of the background at a time. But I have a fix for that. And again, even though I don't do this very often, I usually have elements going off. I am going to do it with this because I think this is the perfect composition. Okay, so that means I have to completely mask out the iris. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use masking fluid, and I'm going to use the Glad Press and Seal. It's pretty cheap. It's just over in your grocery store next to the regular cling film. And so what it is unless you've already purchased it, and you know what it has like these little tiny microscopic sealing bubbles on the other side. It's probably some sort of a wax, I would guess. But I've used it a few times on a few years back on my own paintings, and I never had one single problem with it leaving any sort of film on the surface. It works really well. So I actually started a little bit with a black Sharpie marker. So what I did, and what you want to do, and this is going to save you a lot of masking fluid from the center, and it's going to save you a lot of worry over getting anything on to the iris. Okay, so I'm just very carefully, just lightly brushing it outward so that it lays relatively flat. And then, just like I kind of started here, I'm going to come in about 1/4 of an inch. And you're going to do this all the way around. And the reason why I'm using a Sharpie here is because I'm going to take this off and I'm going to put it on a cutting board for paper, those little mats that you can get. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just going all the way around. And this, okay, I have done this before using, it's what airbrushers use. It's like a film that you peel off, and it's really sticky, but oh my gosh, trying to get it to sit correctly wherever you want to put your masking fluid on it's impossible. And I am not one of these people that am comfortable with putting it down and then using a really sharp X-Acto knife and cutting it out. I just think that you're asking for trouble to be cutting on your paper. So this is a great solution to that. It lifts up really easily. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I get this all drawn out, then I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to reposition it, lay it down, and then I'll go ahead and do the masking fluid. And when I paint the masking fluid on, I'm going to make sure I stay to this side of the line. That way it'll seal everything under, and I won't have to worry about any seepage. I tried to do this when we did the workshop on the glass, and I left a little part, and I just used tape, and the color got underneath the tape. It wasn't a disaster, but I should have been a little bit more careful. So that's it. So then once you've got it all the way around, okay, it's all drawn out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just very gently lift it off, and I'm going to move this out of the way, and then bring over my cutting board. And I can see where I'm at, so I'm just going to, let it press down a bit onto the board, and then I'm going to take just a very sharp X-Acto knife and just cut out all around the paper. And then once I've done that, I'll lift it up and we'll put it back on the paper, and then we'll start masking. So now I've got the press and seal on the flower, and if you kind of lean it at an angle, it's kind of got a matte finish. But what I did was I took a paper towel, so I cut it out and then I laid it on there. And one thing I realized, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, I probably should have just masked this, did the right down in the thin area, just masking fluid. And then, you know, I could have just done a little bit more of the press and seal and then that area. But either way, I managed to get it on there. It was a little hard, but I got it under. You just have to be really gently with it. And then I took paper towel and I just pressed it down and went over it like this. And then that way I did that to make sure that all of that Sharpie ink was dry. But again, I'm going to be going over it with the masking fluid, so it's not on the underside, it's on this side. So I'm going to use, and if you haven't masked before, go watch my masking tutorial. But I'm going to be using the incredible white mask. It's by Graphics Corporation. It is the best masking fluid. I used to use Winsor & Newton, but you can find the uncolored, but it's more common to get the colored. It's like a little bit of a yellow dye in the Winsor & Newton. It's a great masking fluid, but it stains the paper, kind of like will leave a little bit of a yellow stain. This, as far as I'm concerned, is the best masking fluid ever. It never sticks. It doesn't pull up any paper. But, you know, and this is the only paper I use is the Arches 300 pound. So what it does on other paper, I don't know. I just know that as long as you put it on correctly and you get plenty on and you make sure it's on nice and thick so that it pulls up and you don't have to, you know, spend a lot of time trying to get it up, you know, it's excellent. It's an excellent brand. So, okay, so I'm just going to roll it around just a little bit. Don't ever shake masking fluid because you'll form bubbles in there. And then they'll pop when it's on the masking, when it's on the paper, and it's almost impossible to get off. So, okay. So, I'm just going to pour a little bit in. I use a bowl because you don't want to keep your masking fluid open. So that's probably enough. I'm just going to put the lid back on, and then you turn it upside down so you form a little vacuum. And then you can use old brushes, you can use embossing tools. These ones are really kind of nice because they're rubbery on the end, and the masking fluid does not stick. So I'm going to use this rubber end right here. So I'm just going to dip it into the masking fluid. I need to take my glasses off for this. And then you just glide it along the surface and right over that press and seal. And it sticks really well to it. Go slow. Take your time. And when you're putting on the masking fluid, keep to the inside so that you don't have ragged edges. And make sure you grab lots of masking fluid. Go slow so you can get it all the way up to the edge. So you want to keep turning it. See, I do have a couple of bubbles in there. Turn this. Just go very slow. Make sure you have a lot of masking fluid on your brush. And that helps so that you can pick it up with your little pickup tool here. Otherwise, you will, oh my gosh, you'll be cussing up a storm because the masking fluid gets thinner as it dries and it stretches and then it breaks. It's a real pain. And then if you have it on too thin, another problem you have is that if you manage to pick up a bubble and it ends up on the paper, as soon as it dries, it thins out and it pops. And so as you go over with your water and color for your background or what have you, it'll leave you'll pull up the masking fluid and you're like, where did all these little dots of color come from? And it's because you shook your masking fluid. Masking fluid is a latex suspended in ammonia, and it wants to join other little microscopic bits of masking fluid. So what happens is it forms a ball, and it's then unusable. Unusable. Okay, and then every once in a while, just stop and either rinse your brush. One thing I like about the little rubber tips is I can just pull it right off. And one thing that's nice about these little rubber tips is you can kind of lean it to the side. So if you want to know more, if you want to know the real ins and outs about masking fluid, you can watch that tutorial if you haven't yet. But basically, get a lot on. Don't try to be cheap with it. Keep your bottle stored upside down. Put it on thick. Wait till it dries. And then you look at it at an angle to make sure that you don't have any bubbles. And if you have bubbles at that point, then you can put some more masking fluid on it. If you are using a brush, be very delicate with your brush. I don't use soap anymore to put masking fluid on. I just keep my brush rinsed often. And you never use a new brush because you'll ruin it. So you just rinse your brush often, and then when you're done, I just throw it away. I mean, I have so many, I paint so often that I, always have extra brushes that have lost their tip. They're getting fuzzy. So those end up being my masking fluid brushes. And then when I'm done with it, I just throw it away. I don't try to save it. Okay, I've got everything masked. And if you look at it at an angle, you can see how thick the masking fluid is. It's really raised up. So I made sure, covered all of the press and seal. And there you can see everywhere it's covered really well. And so now I just have to let it dry. And you can already see the areas that are drying because they get really clear. They get kind of a beige clarity to them, whereas when it's wet, it's kind of looks like milk. So I'm going to let this dry really well. If you've got it on really thick, you want to give it a couple of hours. You want to make sure it's completely clear. What'll happen if you don't make sure that the masking fluid is completely dry and you go to put water in your paper, your water will seep under. It's going to find any bit of moisture that it can on any areas where the masking fluid is just made the paper just a little bit damp. So really make sure that you watch that carefully. It should be, your paper should go back completely flat and it should look all clear. Now, I do have one little accident here. I dropped some masking fluid right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait, and then when it's really dry, I'll just bump the edge a little bit and I'll just move it over into the stem and I'll just stick it down, because if you try to pull it up, it'll pull everything else up. Same thing goes if you get little drops of masking fluid around the outside of your masked area. Wait till they dry. Make sure you feel them with some really clean hands, and then you can usually feel them and then you can just pull them up. But leave them alone if they drop onto an area that you don't want masked. And then you just feel everything and you'll find it. Okay, so we'll let this dry really well, and then we'll come back and we'll start the background.